6 verses. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Patokara's 500 bereaved mothers whom she comforted and ordained. These two, having lived under former Buddhas as the previous Theris, were, in this Buddha era, reborn in some clansman's house in divers places, were married, and bore children, living domestic lives. And having created karmas such as would bring to pass such a result, they suffered bereavement in the death of a child. Then they found their way, overwhelmed with grief, to Patokara, and saluting her, and seated by her, told her the manner of their sorrow. The Theri, restraining their sorrow, spoke thus. The way by which people come we cannot know. Nor can we see the path by which they go. Why mourns then for him who came to you? Lamenting through your tears. My son. My son. Seeing you knows not the way he came. Nor yet the manner of his leaving you. Weep not, for such is here the life of human. Unasked he came, unbidden went he hence. Lo. Ask yourself again from where came your son? To stay on earth this little breathing space? By one way come and by another gone. As man to die, and pass to other births. So here and so hence, why would you weep? They, hearing her teaching, were filled with inspiration within, and, under the Theri, renounced the world. Exercising themselves from now on in insight meditation. Their minds growing ripe for enlightenment, they soon became established in arahantship, with thorough grasp of the Dhamma in true form and in meaning. From that time on, pondering on their attainment, they was elated in those words, the way by which people come, adding to that other verses, and repeating them in turn, as follows. Lo! From my heart the hidden shaft is gone. The shaft that was there she has removed. And that consuming grief for my dead child, which poisoned all the life of me, is dead. Today I am healed, my yearning stayed. Perfected the deliverance came to me. I go to the refuge of wise and calm Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Now, because those bhikkhunis were learned in the teaching of Patokara, therefore they got the name of the Patokaras. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Vasithya, or Vasethya, daughter of a clansman of Vasali, wife of a Brahmin, a teacher. She, too, faring under former Buddhas like the previous, was, in this Buddha era, reborn in a clansman's family at Vasali. Her parents gave her in marriage to a clansman's son of equal rank, and she, bearing one son, lived happily with her husband. But when the child was able to run about, he died. And she was heartbroken and was maddened with grief. And while the relatives were consoling the husband, she, unknown to them, ran away crying, and wandered round and round till she came to Mithila. There she saw the Lord Buddha going down the next street, self-controlled, self-contained, in control of his senses. And at the sight of the great master, and through the power of the Buddha, she regained her normal mind from the madness that had happened to her. Then the master taught her the Dhamma in short. After hearing it, she was moved with torrents of bliss within, and then she begged the teacher for ordination, and then he asked another bhikkhuni to ordain her. Performing all requisite duties and preliminaries, she was established in insight meditation. And, striving with might, with ripening understanding, she soon attained arahantship, together with thorough grasp of the Dhamma in true form and in spirit. Looking back on her attainment, elated, she said thus. Mourning for my child, with lost mind, mad with grief. I wandered up and down, here and there. Naked, with unkempt hair. Staying in the sides of the streets. And where the dead lay still, and by the chariot roads. So 3 years long I lived, starving and thirsty. And then at last I saw him, as he went. Within that blessed city of Mithila. Great tamer of untamed, yes, him. The very Buddha, banisher of fear. Then came back my errant mind to me. At once to him I went down worshipping. And there, even at his feet I heard the Dhamma. He did a great compassion to me, the Gautama. I heeded the Dhamma he taught, ordained, and renounced the world, and all its cares behind, and gave myself to follow what the Master taught, and realized life in the path to great good fortune bound. Now all my sorrows are broken apart, cast out, uprooted, brought to utter end. In that I now can grasp and understand the basis on which sorrow stands. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Khema, daughter of the king's family at Sagala in Magadha, wife of King Bimbisara, Rajagaha, foremost of the Theris who were distinguished for insight, ranked by the Buddha as a model Theri. Now she, when Padumatara was Buddha, became a slave to others, dependent for her livelihood on others, at Hansavati. And one day, seeing the elder, Sujata, seeking alms, she gave him 3 sweet cakes, and at the same time took down her hair and gave it to the elder, saying, "May I in the future become a disciple, great in wisdom, of a Buddha." After many fortunate rebirths as queen among both gods and men, for that she had created good karma to the utmost, she became a human, when Vipassi was Buddha. Renouncing the world, lived a holy life of celibacy for 10,000 years, she was a learned preacher of the Dhamma. Reborn, when Kakusandha was Buddha, in a wealthy family, she made a great park for the order, and delivered it over to the order with the Buddha at their head. She did this again when Kanagamana was Buddha. When Kisapa was Buddha, she became the eldest daughter of King Kiki, named Samani, lived a holy life of celibacy, and gave a cell to the order. Finally, in this Buddha era, she was born in Magadha, at Sagala, as one of the king's family, and named Khema. Beautiful, and with skin like gold, she became the wife of King Bimbisara. While the master was at the bamboo grove, she, being infatuated with her own beauty, would not go to see him, fearing he would look on this as a fault in her. The king made persons praise the grove to her to induce her to visit it. And accordingly she asked him to let her see it. The king went to the vihara, and seeing no master, but determined that she should not get away, he instructed his men to let the queen see him of the 10 powers, even by constraining her. And this they did when the queen was about to leave without meeting the master. As they brought her reluctant, the master, by his magical power, conjured up a woman like a celestial nymph, who stood fanning him with a palmyra leaf. And Khema, seeing her, thought, "Verily the bhagwa has around him women as lovely as goddesses. I am not fit even to wait upon such. I am undone by my base and mistaken notions." Then, as she looked, that woman, through the firm will of the master, passed from youth to middle age and old age, till, with broken teeth, grey hair, and wrinkled skin, she fell to earth with her palm leaf. Then Khema, because of her ancient resolve, thought, "Has such a body come to be a wreck like that? Then so will my body also." And the master, knowing her thoughts, said, "They who are slaves to lust drift down the stream, like to a spider gliding down the web. He of himself has created, but the released, who all their bonds have snapped in two, with thoughts elsewhere intent, forsake the world, and all delight in sensual pleasure put far away." The commentaries say that when he had finished, she attained arahantship, together with thorough grasp of the Dhamma in form and meaning. But according to the Apadana, she was established only in the fruit of one who has entered the stream, and, the king consenting, entered the order. Then she became an arahant. From that time on she became known for her great insight, and was ranked foremost in this by the bhagwa, seated in the assembly of Aryans at the Jetavana Grove Vihara. And as she sat one day to meditate under a tree, Mara the evil one, in youthful shape, drew near, tempting her with sensuous ideas. "You are fair, and life is young, beautiful Khema. I am young, even I, too. Come, O fairest lady! While in our ear fivefold harmonies murmur melodious, we will seek our pleasure. This body vile, foul seat of disease and corruption. Loathing I feel, and oppression. Cravings of lust are uprooted. Lusts of the body and sense-mind cut like daggers and spears. Speak not to me of delighting in anything of sensuous pleasure. Verily all such vanities now no more may delight me. Slain on all sides is the love of the world, the flesh, and the devil. Torn apart is the darkness of ignorance once that beset me. Know this, O evil one. Destroyer, know yourself defeated. Lo! You who blindly worship stars of sky. You who worship fire in forest, wait upon Agni. Ignorant of the real are you all, you foolish and young. Believing that you this way may find purification from evil. As for me, I worship the enlightened Buddha, the utmost human. Utterly free from all sorrow, doer of the teacher's commandments. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sujata, daughter of a millionare of Saketa, wife of a millionare. She. 2. Having made her resolve under former Buddhas. And accumulating good karma of age-enduring efficacy in many rebirths. And consolidating the essential conditions for enlightenment, was, in this Buddha era, reborn at Saketa, in the millionaire family. Given by her parents in marriage to a millionaire's son of equal rank, and she was living happily with him. Going one day to take part in an festival of stars in the park. She was returning with her attendants to the town, when, in the Anjana grove, she saw the master, and with gladness, she drew near, gave respect, and seated herself. The master, finishing his discourse in order, and knowing the sound state of her mind, expounded the Dhamma to her in an inspiring lesson. Because of that, because her intelligence was fully ripe, she, even as she sat, attained arahantship, together with thorough grasp of the Dhamma in form and meaning. Saluting the master, and going home, she obtained her husband's and her parents' consent, and by command of the master, was admitted to the order of Bhikkhunis. Looking back at her attainment, she was elated and said thus. Adorned in finery, in dress fair. In garlands wreathed, powdered with sandalwood. Decorated with all my jewelry, surrounded. With troop of handmaidens, and well supplied. With food solid and soft, and drink enough. From home I drove myself to the fair pleasaunce. There did we sport and make a merry time. Then we went once more on the homeward way. So entered we the grove called Anjana. Hard by Saketa, where amidst the trees stands the vihara. Him saw I sitting there, light of the world. And went into his presence worshipping. And of his great compassion for us all. He taught to me the Dhamma, the one who sees. At once I, too, could pierce and penetrate. Hearing the truth taught by the mighty seer. For there, even as I sat, I touched the Dhamma. Immaculate, the ambrosial path. Then first it was I left the life of home. When the righteous path I had come to know. And now the threefold wisdom have I won. O wise and sure is the path of Buddha. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Ainopama, daughter of the millionare Mahiha of Saketa. She. 2. Having made resolve under former Buddhas. And accumulating good karma of age-enduring efficacy in many rebirths. Perfecting the conditions tending to bring about enlightenment, was, in this Buddha era, reborn at Saketa as the daughter of the millionaire, Mahiha. Because of her beauty she got the name Matchless. When she grew up, many rich men's sons, kings' ministers, and princes, sent messengers to the father, saying, Give us your daughter Ainopama, and we will give this, or that. Hearing of this, she, for that the promise of the highest was in her, thought, Profit to me in the life of the house there is none. And searched for the master. She heard him teach, and her intelligence maturing, the memory of that teaching, and the strenuous effort in insight meditation she made, established her in the third state, that of no return. Asking the master for admission, she was by his order admitted among the bhikkhunis. And on the seventh day from that time on, she realized arahantship. Looking back at that, she was elated and said, "Daughter of millionaire Mahiya's famous house. Rich, beautiful and prosperous, I was born. To vast possessions and to lofty rank. Nor lacked I suitors, many came and wooed. The sons of kings and merchant princes came. With costly gifts, all eager for my hand. And messengers were sent from many a land. With promise to my father. Give to me. Anopama, and look. Whatever she weighs. Anopama your daughter, I will give. Eightfold that weight in gold and gems of price. But I had seen the enlightened Buddha. One supreme of the world, incomparable. In lowliness I sat and worshipped at his feet. He, Gautama, out of his pity. He taught me the Dhamma. And seated even there, I attained the third goal. And knew this world should see me never return. Then shaving off my hair, I entered on the homeless ascetic ways of life. It is now the seventh night since all sense craving has dried up within me. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Rhys. Rhys Davids. Great Mahapajapati the Gautamai. Foster mother of Buddha, the sister and co-wife of the Buddha's departed mother, queen of Kapilavastu as well as head of nuns order. Now she was born, when Padumatara was Buddha, in the city of Hansavati, in a clansman's family. Hearing the master preaching, and assigning the foremost place for experience to a certain bhikkhuni, she vowed such a place should one day be hers. Then, after many births, once more was she reborn in the Buddha-empty era, between Kassapa and our Buddha, at Benares, as the forewoman among slave girls. Now, when the rains drew near, 5 silent Buddhas came down from the Nandamulaka mountain cave to Isapatana, seeking alms. And those women got their husbands to erect 5 huts for the Buddhas during the 3 rainy months, and they provided them with all they required during that time. Reborn once more in a weaver's village near Benares, in the headman's family, she again served to silent Buddhas. Finally, she was reborn, shortly before our master came to us, at Devadaha, in the family of Mahashoka Buddha. Her family name was Gautama, and she was the younger sister of the great Maya. And the interpreters of birthmarks declared that the children of both sisters would be wheel-rolling rulers. Now, King Suddhodana, when he came of age, held a festival, and wedded both the sisters. After this, when our master had arisen, and, in turning the excellent will of the Dhamma, came in course of fostering souls to Vasali, his father, who had reached arahantship, died. Then the great Pajapati, wishing to leave the world, asked the master for admission, but obtained it not. Then she cut off her hair, put on the robes, and at the end of the sermon now forming the Sutta on strife and contention, she swiftly moved, and together with Sakya ladies whose husbands had renounced the world, went to Vasali, and asked the master, through Ananda the Thera, for ordination into the order. This she then obtained, with the 8 additional rules for bhikkhunis. Thus ordained, the great Pajapati came and saluted the master, and stood on one side. Then he taught her the Dhamma. And she, exercising herself, and practicing, soon after obtained arahantship, accompanied by intuitive and analytical knowledge. The remaining bhikkhunis, after Nandaka's discourse, became endowed with the 6 branches of intuitive knowledge. Now, one day, when the master was seated in the assembly of Aryans at the great Jetavana Grove Vihara, he assigned the foremost place in experience to great Pajapati, the Gautamai. She, dwelling in the bliss of fruition and of nibbana, stated her gratitude one day by declaring her anna before the master, in praising his virtue. Buddha the awakened, the Great One, supreme over every being that has life, who from all suffering and sorrow has released. Me and so many, many stricken folk. Now have I understood how suffering does come. Craving, the cause, in me is dried up. Have I not walked, have I not touched the end of suffering on the ariyan, the eightfold path? Oh! But it is long I've wandered down all time. Living as mother, father, brother, son. And as grandparent in the ages past. Not knowing how and what things really are. And never finding what I needed much. But now mine eyes have seen the bhagwa. And now I know this living frame's the last. And shattered is the unending round of births. No more I shall come to be reborn. Behold the company who learn of him. In happy concord of fraternity. Of strenuous energy and resolute. From strength to strength advancing toward the goal. The noblest homage this to Buddha's paid. Oh! Surely for the good of countless lives? Did Sister Maya bring forth Gautama, dispeller of the burden of our suffering, who lay overweight with disease and death. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Gutta, daughter of a Brahmin of Savatya. She, too, having made her resolve under former Buddhas, and accumulating good karma of age-enduring efficacy in many rebirths, and consolidating the essential conditions for enlightenment, was, in this Buddha era, reborn at Savatya, in a Brahmin's family, and named Gutta. When adolescent, life in the house became repugnant to her, and she obtained her parents' consent to enter the order under the great Pajapati, foster mother and the sister and co-wife of the Buddha's departed mother. From that time on, though she practiced insight meditation with devotion, her mind long persisted in running after external interests, and this destroyed concentration. Then the Master, to encourage her, from his fragrant chamber, sent forth his radiant ethereal form, and appeared near her, as if seated in the air, saying these words. Do you think, Gutta, of that high reward, for which you were content to lose your world, renouncing hope of children, lure of wealth, to that direct and purify the mind, nor give yourself to sway of truant thoughts. Deceivers ever are the thoughts of men, gladly for the haunts where Mara finds his prey, and causing many rebirths. To this dread circle is destined the witless. Yours is to break those fetters 5. The lust of sense, ill will, delusion of the self, the taint of rites and ritual, and doubt. Abandoning these lower fetters, O Bhikkhu, that drag you backward to the here shore. It is not for you to come again to this. Get you away from life lust, from conceit, from ignorance, and from distraction's craze. Sunder the bonds. So only shall you come to utter end of suffering. Throw off the chain of birth and death, you know what they mean. So, be free from craving, in this life on earth. And seeing the purity of Dhamma, you shall go on your way calm and serene. And when the Master had made an end of that utterance, the Theri attained arahantship, together with thorough grasp of the Dhamma in form and meaning. And blissful on that, she uttered those lines in their order as spoken by the bhagwa, from where they came to be called the Theri's verses. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Vijaya, daughter of a clansman of Rajagaha. She, too, having made her resolve under former Buddhas, and accumulating good karma of age-enduring efficacy in many rebirths, was, in this Buddha era, reborn at Rajagaha, in a certain clansman's family. When grown up she became the companion of Khema, afterwards Theri, but then of the laity. Hearing that Khema had renounced the world, she said, if she, as a king's wife, can leave the world, surely I can. So to Khema Theri she went, and the latter, discerning what she wanted, taught her the Dhamma so as to agitate her mind concerning rebirth, and to make her seek comfort in the system. And so it came to pass. And the Theri ordained her. She Serving as was due, and studying as was due, grew in insight meditation, and, the capability being in her, soon attained to arihantship, together with thorough grasp of the Dhamma in form and meaning. And she, looking back at that, was elated and said thus: 4 times, no 5, I swiftly moved from my cell, and roamed around to find the peace of mind I lacked, and governance of thoughts I could not bring into captivity. Then to a bhikkhuni I came and asked full many a question of my doubts. To me she taught the Dhamma, the elements, organ and object in the life of sense, and then the factors of the nobler life, the 4 ariyan truths, the faculties, the powers, the 7 factors of awakening, the eightfold way, leading to utmost good. I heard her words, her teaching I obeyed. While past the first watch of the night there rose long memories of the past lives. While past the second watch, arose within the clarified divine eye celestial, of purity. While past the last watch of the night, I burst and torn apart the gloom of ignorance. Then, letting joy and blissful ease of mind suffuse my body, 7 days I sat before. Then stretching out cramped limbs I rose again. And torn apart indeed, was that darkness of ignorance?